what's it like when you're working for like setting your own deadlines for your own projects? Like, how is that? Do you have like a list you do? Do you have like a like what's your process when you're like writing, drawing, like doing any of these things? Is it just you're doing it as fast as you can and as best as you can, or is it like I have a list that I go by, or like I know in my head that this is how it works, or
Right. For my own projects or just like my own day to day, like
I would
I'll speak to both.
yeah, speak to both.
Um, yeah, I have like, I have a couple projects at all times, like Omar can attest to that.
That's true.
And Omar also is the same, where you have like five or six
Yep,
things floating.
I'm like you, and we're working on something together too. So
You heard it here. We are. Well, yeah, and that's the thing too, is it's like sometimes if you're like in a crisis point, it's just a matter of like watering plants, like and figuring out like
what needs attention?
mm-hmm. And so like, with Omar and I are writing a book together, and it's been really great because we're working with an artist who is super rad. There are times where this artist is like gonna take like a long time. So sometimes we don't look at the project, and then out of nowhere,
We get 10 pages in.
yeah, we get like 10 pages, and suddenly it's like, oh, we gotta like do 5 pages now just to keep them working. So that's one thing. But I usually have like a little list, and I go through it and cross it out. Um, I like to break my problems up into little chunks, so that way I never feel like super stressed out. So with writing, it'll be like, okay, like with Iceman, what I'll do to like not be so stressed out about like the process of writing 20 pages is I'll be like, okay, did you lay it out? And then I make a grid and I check off all the pages I've laid out. Then it's like, okay, did you
Do you send the layouts to the artist?
no, no, never. I said that earlier.
Oh, that's. I mean, I was just curious because I was like, it seems like it's a lot of work just to.
But I talked to
peace of
Steve.
mind.
I talked to Steve Orlando, and he takes like 2 days to like. He calls it blocking it out or something. Like I shouldn't be speaking about his process, but anyway,
He's coming on the show too, so I'm
Oh,
sure
perfect.
we'll learn about it eventually.
But yeah, it actually goes way quicker because I'm just like, whoop, okay, that's the page. But then the next thing on the chart is, okay, did you type all that out? Did you like, write the panel descriptions? Then I have another thing that's like, did you do the dialogue? Then I have did you do a polish, which is like, you write the dialogue real fast, then you go and look at it before you send it to the editor. And so, yeah, I just break things into tiny, tiny, tiny little to-do lists and little micro achievements to like keep myself motivated. I was talking to my high school best friend, and he's like, "How do you keep yourself going? Because like you make your own schedule and you get all this stuff done." And I basically was like, you've gotta constantly motivate yourself, and you've got to constantly like reward yourself. So like I'll be like, you can't look at your phone until you finish inking this panel. And if it's like, or if it's an insane panel and it's like, like you can't look at your phone until you finish like inking that Megazord arm. Like, because sometimes things will just take an hour to ink.
Wow, such a long process.
Sometimes, yeah, for sure. So yeah, you just have to constantly be like tricking your brain into like loving working and like loving the idea of being creative, but you also have to like be pragmatic about it. And then on top of that, you've got to clean your apartment, and you got to walk your dog, and you got to clean out the cat litter. Like, being a grown up sucks.
Yep.
It rules. These are easy problems. I hear it myself. Don't worry. I just hung out with my sister and her 2 kids. I know what like
Real problems are.
yeah. Well, like raising
like
children
yeah.
is just way harder than, writing Iceman jokes.
For sure.
But yeah, anyway, so I kind of just have to be mindful of deadlines and, try not to rush anything. And I do work 7 days a week, basically. That's my other thing is like, instead of working like 5 days a week, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., I'd rather work like 7 days a week and be flexible with my schedule. So that way I'm never, I think, I just don't like, I don't think stress helps the writing process. I mean, sometimes it does. Deadlines very much help. But yeah, I don't know. I just keep myself micromanaged at all times.
That's always what you have to do. Always find a way to keep pushing. And I like those small little rewards you discussed where you're kind of like, I'm not looking at my phone because what I've been doing is there's this, I use Google Chrome.
Yeah.
And so there's this plugin you can install that's actually called, I think, like Stay Focused or something. And so
Oh.
it keeps you off of like any social media or anything like that. You can put in sites to block. Because I would find myself like working on like marketing or something like that, and then I would go and I just, or like writing, and all of a sudden I'd go on Facebook and I'd look up and it'd be like 30 minutes later, and I'm like, how did
Yeah.
I waste 30 minutes
K-hole.
just like going on social media? So like I put blocks on these sites, and that's my way of like anytime like it actually just like muscle memory for me. Like I laterally just like
Yeah.
open the window and just go to it. It's not even like a cognitive
Oh,
process
that's
for me.
great.
And so it just blocks the site for me, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I should be working. It like snaps me back to like a punishment or like a non-reward, and I'm like, I know I'm allowed to do this in X amount of time because there's a timer on this thing.
Yes. See,
So
that's my problem is I love Instagram,
yep,
and like you can convince yourself that it's like totally
okay,
yeah, especially if you're an art if you illustrate
yeah,
or but you also
inspiration.
yeah, I'm just like, oh man, like let's look at this person's art. Damn, Adam Hughes is great. Oh man, look at this new person. And then but then it takes you in the wrong direction. And then suddenly you're looking at your exes and you're like, okay, I gotta get off this. But yeah, it's just about, and then with personal projects or like things I'm doing on the side, it has actually been really hard to motivate myself because I I'm doing something. I have so many new ideas after kind of like giving myself a break post Nothing Lasts Forever. My graphic memoir from Image Comics that came out in June 2017. Anyway, sorry, I was looking at the camera. Anyway,
Shameless plug.
yeah, duh, right? But anyway, I gave myself a break, and now I'm like kind of ready again. But I told myself I would only do another creator-owned thing if there was like either money or an editor or something, because I just like I don't trust myself, or I want to challenge myself to do something that I've never done, and to be a like to achieve a level of greatness I haven't unlocked before. And in my head I believe like having either like an editor or like a marketing team or something, some kind of additional factor attached to it will kind of be what I need, rather than like what I had been doing, which is like I will do about like 50 to 60 pages of something in secret, and then when it looks good enough and I have a sense of the shape, then I take it to like Image and I'm like, looky, and then they're like, yeah, pretty dope. Like, when do you think you can put it on the calendar? And then like I'll totally say something way ambitious and like not true, and then be up for like 3 weeks straight meeting the deadline.
That's what it is.
Meeting the goddamn deadline. But oh my god, yeah, when I did Nothing Lasts Forever, did I tell you that I like my arm stopped working and I was
What?
having fake heart attacks because I had been up for so many days straight, and it was like after I had this surgery, internet, and it fucked up my whole health system. So like
Oh my god.
I was doing shit I thought I could do before I got super sick and had this surgery. I'm like, also there's like a crew here that I'm like getting real emotional with. Anyway, but I was I was up like for 2 or 3 days straight finishing the book. I was like coloring and like adding some like last minute things here and there and putting on an InDesign. And something that I've been getting after this operation in my esophagus, I get pericarditis attacks, which feel like a heart attack.
Wow.
Yeah, and so
That's
like,
scary.
yeah, I went to the hospital the first time I had it, and they did like, man, you tell them
You're having a heart attack. They're gonna.
you have the symptoms of a heart attack, man, you get through that fucking waiting room real fast, let me tell you. And then it was a mystery because like they were like, okay, you have all of these things, but your blood pressure is normal, so we don't know what's going on. And then this other doctor came in and she was like, I think I know what's wrong with you. I'm gonna like fuck you up on ibuprofen, and if you feel better in 30 minutes, like we know what's wrong with you. And it turns out, yeah, I would get like an inflamed heart sac around my heart, or sac around my heart would get inflamed and infected, or blah 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 blah. And stress always brings it out. So I'm working on this book, and it's happening again, and I'm like, I know what it is. I know what it is. So I'm just like popping like ibuprofen, like still drinking coffee, Coca-Cola and tea, just like this is I'm like keeping going, and then it got the pain in my arm got so bad I couldn't even like use my hand.
Oh.
And so I was emailing Image. I was like, I know I said I'd have the files in today. It's gonna be tomorrow. My arm stopped working. I'm gonna close my eyes. I'm sorry. So the book still made it, but I gave them the files a day later, and that really broke my heart
Yeah.
to have like done that. But anyway, that's good for me though. Like,
You have to be realistic. You can't. You have to stop if
yeah,
you have to stop. You know.
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. But man, that was anyway, that was a messed up moment. But yeah, I got anyway. So that where how did I get down this road? Oh, comic books, meeting deadlines, process.
Yeah.
There's always there. I think I'm trying to avoid that the next round. Is all I'm trying to say is like I don't want to be in a position where someone trusts me to land the plane all on my own, and I'm pulling these all-nighters and kind of turning in something that's like a product of like madness, which a lot of my memoirs end up being. Like, there's this weird like 11th hour magic where I'm like, oh, this is how my life makes sense as a narrative for a reader for consumption. Done.
You've done. I mean, every memoir I read from you, and I've read, I think, all of them, have been
Mhm.
they've told a complete story. You know, they've really had like they've had their moments of madness, but found a way to be controlled, and
Yeah.
finally have found a way to find yourself and have a moral. And I think that's something that's so beautiful and so
Thank
cool
you.
and so Sina.
So that's so Cena.
That's so Sina. It's
But
like
that's
Raven.
yeah, but that's life, and life is messy, and then at the end of the day, you kind of you make your sense of it, you make your logic, and that's how you sleep.